قدم اٹھانا یہ کربلا ہے، یہ کربلا ہے، یہاں سنبھل کر قدم اٹھانا یہ کربلا ہے، یہ کربلا ہے، دعائیں دیں گے حسین تم کو، یہاں پہ آنسو اگر بہائے، یہاں پہ بیٹی نے بے وطن کی ستم گروں سے تماچے کھائے، یہاں پہ خوشیوں کو بھول جانا یہ کربلا ہے، یہ کربلا ہے، یہاں پہ حر بھی تھا حرملا بھی، کتاب ہستی کو پڑھ کے دیکھو، صدائے حل من جو آ رہی ہے، تم اس طرف ہو یا اس طرف ہو، تمہیں عمل سے ہے اب بتانا یہ کربلا ہے، یہ کربلا ہے، رہیں کہیں بھی جہاں میں جا کر حسین وہاں کی مٹی سے ہی بنے ہیں، وہاں ہے واپس پلٹ کے جانا یہ کربلا ہے، یہ کربلا ہے، یہاں سنبھل کر قدم اٹھانا یہ کربلا ہے، یہ کربلا ہے، پر محمد وعلی محمد صلوات۔
بر محمد وال محمد صلوات۔ آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجر مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں، یوں حضرت زینب نے کہا پیچ کے سینہ، برباد ہوئی میں، آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجر مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں، ایک دن تھا کہ چادر میرے سر سے گری تھی، سورج بھی نہ نکلا، سر ننگ پھراتا ہے مجھے آج کمینہ، برباد ہوئی میں، آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجر مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں، ایک دن تھا کہ اس شعر کی کرتی تھی میں شاہی، اور آج تباہی، بے غسل و پرامور نبوت کا نگینہ، برباد ہوئی میں، آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجر مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. بھائی موئے بیٹے موئے زندہ میں پھنسے ہیں، وارث نہیں کوئی. عباس نہیں جیتے نہیں شاہ مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. آباد ہوئی کربلا اجرا مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. یہ نیل تماچوں کے میرے منہ پہ پڑا ہے، میں کس کو دکھاؤں. نیزے کے تلے بیٹھ کے روتی ہے سکینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجرا مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. کانوں کو میرے چر کے در لے گئے ظالم، میرے گئی روتی. یہ چاند سا چہرہ نہیں دیکھے گی سکینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجرا مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. قاسم نہیں، اکبر نہیں، عباس نہیں ہے، عابد ہے تو بیمار. یہ کیسے پڑا مجھ پہ محرم کا مہینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. آباد ہوئی کرب و بلا اجرا مدینہ، برباد ہوئی میں. سورۃ المبارۃ الفاتحہ.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. It's Asr time. It's Asr time. The plains of Karbala are red. The tears show Hussein is said, you're dead. My daughter, don't ask why. Come bid your dad goodbye. It's time to say goodbye. It's time to say goodbye. I stand all alone on the sands here. I've lost all of my friends here. The time's now drawing very near. Lie on my chest, my lady dear. Embrace without a sigh. It's time to say goodbye. Look, there is no one left anymore. Brothers and cousins, the blood is a pour. Your uncle's now lying on the shore. I know you are shaken right to the core. Look at the reddish sky. It's time to say goodbye. Tonight you will sleep so without my chest. Lie on mother's laps, that will give you rest. exchange with Asghar, it's my bequest. Do not weep, my daughter, I request. After me, do not cry. It's time to say goodbye. The enemies after me will attack. The tents will burn, shelter you'll lack. The veils they'll snatch and flog your back. They'll slap and whip you blue and black. Abbas will tremble shy. It's time to say goodbye. They'll snatch earrings, your ears will tear. A dress caught in fire you will wear. Your blood and tears will form a pair. Oh, how many hardships you will bear. To seek me you'll come by. It's time to say goodbye. My daughter, more misery will befall. They'll tie you up and chain you all. You'll walk barefoot and blister your soul. I shudder to think of your camel's fall. Will be on spears high. It's time to say goodbye. This is on Ashura, a tragic sight. Hussein and Sakina embracing tight. No chest for Ma'sooma there is tonight. Weeping they fainted for their plight. Jari and Fatima cry. Sakina has said goodbye. Sakina has said goodbye. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله starting ayah number 45 to ayah number 49. This is all about the reflection of Surah Al-Kahf. It's reminding men that wealth and children are an ornament of the life of the world, and the everlasting good works are better with your Lord in reward and better in expectations. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam states that the good and bad deeds of men will accompany him, and it will not be possible to be separated from them till the scroll of his deed is given to him in Qiyamah. Every deed, good or bad deed, leaves its impact. But when a good deed is done with sincerity, be it a thought, an idea, word, actions, etc., that leaves a positive impact on the individual, or for as long as it is used or practiced upon, it will continue to benefit the person even if the person has died. The Quran refers to these virtuous deeds as al-baqiyatu salihah. Some examples of baqiyatu salihah could be building or contributing towards building of a mosque, madrasa, hospital, school, useful publications such as articles, book, and Quran. A well, a tree planted that provides tree or a shed. Guidance and good conduct that he followed and encouraged others to follow is also one of the means of baqiyatu salihah. A virtuous child who seeks forgiveness from him is also an example of baqiyatu salihah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam's legacy lives on. One man on a mission joined by his family and 72 companions, and a movement was created to become a symbol of standing against falsehood and oppression. What legacy will I leave behind? What will be my baqiyatu salih? Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim.
Mu'mineen are requested. Taboot for the English Majlis will be here in the first floor. During the taboot, all are requested to remain over here. ભાઈઓની વિનંતી કરવામાં આવે કે થોડા આગળ આવતા જાઓ કે જે લોકો મોરેથી આવે છે તે ઓ લોકોની જગા મળે. With the loudest three salawat for Muhammad wa ale Muhammad.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواحي. صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah, starting the Majlis tonight, we want to refer to a particular quote stated by Sayyidatina wa Mawlatina Zainab in the courtroom of the oppressors and the tyrants, whereby she says, يا يزيد فكد كيدك واسعى سعيك فوالله لن تمحو ذكرنا ولا تميت وحينا. The courtroom of Yazid, she says, "Oh Yazid, do as you can, as much as you can, or whatever you will, for by Allah you will never remove our remembrance, Ahl al-Bayt." Taking this as a base for our speech tonight, insha'Allah, as we commemorate the sons of Sayyidah Zainab and what they gave towards the religion of Islam on the 10th of Muharram, we want to look at Sayyidah Zainab in a different light tonight that we're used to. Sayyidah Zainab, as you know, biography-wise, you'll find that the much history that we have of her as a young daughter, many of us would look at Sayyidah Zainab in a personality and begin to tell ourselves that she was great, a lady, because her grandfather on the first level was Rasulullah, that her grandmother was Khadija, that her mother is Fatima to Zahra, and that's why she was great. Other people says no. Amir al-Mu'mineen is her father. Hassan and Hussein, as in which other, besides Kulthum, had two brothers that were imams as well as a father. So their greatness, then they come to lie and they say that the greatness of Sayyidah Zainab was solely based off the fact that she was surrounded by purity, surrounded by infallible, surrounded by those that Islam was built upon. And that's where her greatness stems from. When we look at a particular personality, different ways that we can actually view any particular personality. So on the first level, understanding a personality, many of us will read biographies, would look into lifestyles, and we can become encyclopedias. And mashallah, in the communities we have, those people that you refer to and they'll know every single answer and how she lived it. So I'm not going to look at the things that are hard to apply within my life. I'm not going to look at the fact that I'm going to wear my hijab, let's say, same as Sayyidah Zainab, because, it doesn't help me now. I'm not ready for it. But I like the way that, for example, she used to love Abu Abdullah. I want to keep that in my life. No. The second level is, when you pick and choose, you're like, I like this about religion. I don't like this about religion. This one meets the criteria that I have. This one, I can place it into my lifestyle perfectly. The other one, it's challenging in my lifestyle. I'll have to change too much within my lifestyle. I don't know if I'm ready to be like Zainab in that particular perspective. That one also is not the one that we want to really take from. The third is when we come across the life of Sayyidah Zainab, and I don't say this when we say it in a male audience. Some people may think to themselves, oh, no, it doesn't apply to me because Sayyidah Zainab was a female. No, Sayyidah Zainab was for humanity in her characters. And we'll understand this tonight, insha'Allah, from what she's achieved. But the third understanding of a personality is the one where we look at when you have that much love for a personality that you dissolve in their love. Example, we'll have the example of Rasulullah. Many people loved Rasulullah, didn't they? But there was only one person that dissolved in the love of Rasulullah. He dissolved in the love of Rasulullah, that he applied everything in his life exactly like Rasulullah taught. So much so that the Quran itself, when it comes, Rasulullah says to the Christians of Najran, he says, I'll bring forth our woman, you'll bring forth your woman. We'll bring forth Al-Abbas, that dissolved in the love of that in a few moments within Karbala, when you read the history, the Imam al-Hussein himself says, بِنَفْسِيَ أَنْتِ. Do you know what that means? When an Imam says, بِنَفْسِيَ أَنْتِ, if you want to translate it, the easiest translation says, may I be a sacrifice for you. Strange to hear, isn't it? That Imam would say such a thing. But when you look at who it's for, then you begin to analyze. It's for Abu Fadl al-Abbas that he says it. It's a person that dissolved in the love of Abu Abdullah. Likewise in Karbala, we had another personality by the name of Sayyida Zainab, that we understand dissolved in the love of Fatima al-Zahra. And that's why when we understand, when we look at the biography of Sayyida Zainab, that any time came where she wanted to showcase herself, what did we say in a few nights? That every time when she came out, she would wear the abba of her mother, Fatima. So we understand all of these aspects when looking into particular personalities and how we need to look to gain from it. It's not the fact that I can just pick and choose. Nor do I have to just learn a biography and read a book about Sayyida Zainab. It's about taking everything from her life and trying to apply it in the best manner that I can. That's what we need to understand. Another aspect about Sayyida Zainab's life that we often hear, but we never really pay attention to, is many times we'd come, and when we're talking about her character, people call her a ma'soom. She was ma'soom. But then the question arises, hold on, we thought we only had 4 arguments today, whereby we want to look at the aspect of the infallibility. Is what does isma mean? As we hear it many times, is there just one isma, or is there another type of isma that we need to look towards? Secondly, what are the different opinions that surround the existence of another isma? As in, what's the for arguments? What's the against arguments? The third, what are the characteristics of this particular isma that we want us, what she's capable of with this level of isma? So inshallah, or there's a veil or a barrier. Example, if I want to say that I all of a sudden want to put a stop or a veil or a barrier between me and drinking child, protectors of the message. So on the one side, we have this understanding there's only 14 infallibles. On the other side, we now understand that there's another type of infallibility. Of the people come forward and say this is called al-ismat al-sughra, the minor infallibility. Of the people that come and call it al-isma al-iktisabiyya, self-attained infallibility. Some people come forward and say this is the isma, what do they call it? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The one where you apply yourself. Al-iltizamiyya, meaning you hold steadfast to this particular type of isma. Why? Because by being steadfast, by protecting yourself on a constant basis, you're attaining this. So the for and against, people come forward and says, no, there's only one type of isma, and these things that you bring forward is all new. As in we've never heard of it before. Where are you coming with this particular type of infallibility? The other people say, no. Just because the names are not familiar to you, doesn't mean that rank doesn't exist. Doesn't mean the capability that you can become a self-attained infallible does not exist. So all of a sudden, then what's the criteria? If we've understood, it's a lot of echo. It's a lot of echo. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma. So this self-attained infallibility, what's the characteristics behind it? What do we need to do in order for us to be in that group where we consider to ourselves that yes, this is the conditions to have a self-attained infallibility? And is it available for everyone? So they say there is conditions. The first being that you have this concept of adala, meaning that you do that which is wajib and you refrain from that which is haram. First level. Very simple when we say it out loud, yeah? What we discussed yesterday, taqwa, Imam puts it into 2 sentences. Don't be missing in the places where Allah wants you, and make sure the places that He forbade, you're not there. Basic understanding, taqwa. A person that has taqwa has the capability to have this aspect of self-attained infallibility. You know, did you hit your brother? It's usually a yes or no answer. And they'll come like, I hit him, but just a little bit, you know. Did you pull your sister's hair? Like, I didn't hit. Just a little bit, but there's no percentage there. Infallibility isn't, when we enter this self-attained infallibility, isn't yes or no. That's you're infallible all of a sudden now, or you're not infallible. No. It's more like stages. So you can refrain from haram and do your wajibat. It doesn't mean you're at the height of that self-attained infallibility, no. If I tell you now, if I get everyone to wear white shirts, you'll look across the room and you'll see there's different shades. Some people have very, very white shirts. You know, you just took it out of the supermarket. Other people, it might be cloudy. Different shades of white, if everyone was to wear white. The understanding there is your connection between you and Allah showcases the extent of your infallibility. The self-attained one we're talking about. That you can't say, for example, the person such as, let's say, a marja, is the same as Sayyidah Zainab. As high as that person is, that we understand that he is practicing this level of self-attained infallibility. Otherwise, you wouldn't follow him as a marja. He has those qualities, staying away from haram and doing that which is wajibat. But then there's levels. Amongst those levels, as an example, or makruhat. Some people will only have the thought of a makruh. Tomorrow I'm going to sin, and I'm going to come back to becoming self-attained infallible. It's not like that. Otherwise, everyone technically is infallible when they sleep. True? Everyone's infallible when they sleep. They're not committing any sin. No, you need to make sure that you have those characteristics and you maintain it throughout your life. One slip up, because many people gained high positions. One slip up, and you'll find them in a place where they never thought they'd be. Example, we have a person, it's always mentioned, by the name of Barsisat. Many of us may have heard this name, many of us may not have come across this person. This person, in the traditions, was a person which was mustajab al-da'wah. Meaning when he was prayed towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he attained such a high rank in the eyes of Allah that every time he'd make a dua, Allah would grant him his wish. They said, there's a king that had a daughter that was sick. Took him everywhere, no one could cure her. So they told him, take it to Barsisat. He is mustajab al-da'wah. So they came to him, they brought the king's daughter, the princess, says, can you please pray for her? He says, it's not my job or anything like that, you know. As in, I'm a abid, I'm a worshipper. So he said, no, we're going to leave her with you, just make dua, we're going to come back and pick her up. So making dua, Allah granted his wish, she was cured. But she stayed there while the brothers come back. Then the shaitan comes. Many of us, when we connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shaitan cannot handle that. It can be in anything, small or big. Shaitan's going to be there, making sure that you do not achieve what you want. Whispers, ideas, thoughts in your mind, in order for you to be led astray. So he comes towards Barsisat. Remember, this is not an ordinary person. This is a person which is mustajab al-da'wah. Imagine how much he's elevated in the eyes of Allah, that Allah grants him the rank of mustajab al-da'wah. So shaitan comes to him, he's like, she's a beautiful lady, princess. You're, a scholar. Go towards her. No one's going to suspect you. You're a scholar. Shaitan, until Barsisat slips. So all of a sudden now you've got a princess that performed that which is haram with this Bars. If a person practices this aspect of taqwa for 40 days consecutively and 40 nights, that Allah places within him a nur in his heart. That nur will transcend and manifest on the person's tongue as wisdom. One of the first things, after 40 days, you begin to receive these blessings by entering this realm. We have people that reach the height of these self-attained infallibility. Of these people that attained the highest of levels was Sayyida Zainab, was Aliyun al-Akbar, was Aba Fadl al-Abbas, was Fatima al-Ma'suma, amongst many others. They are the people that reach that self-attained infallibility level. What can we look from the characteristics of Sayyida Zainab when she's attained such a level? An aim to reach such a level as Sayyida Zainab alayha salam. The first of the characteristics that she showcases to us is the characteristic of knowledge. Knowledge, Sayyida Zainab, we'll find when we read the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra. When we read the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra, we'll begin to see it's pages long, very difficult to learn and memorize. Do you know one of the narrators of that particular tradition was a 4-year-old Zainab? Heard it when? Once. Once she heard it from her mother, memorized, and was one of the people that gives it to us. She's the person that the chain of narrations from. A 4-year-old Zainab, look at the knowledge of Sayyida Zainab. That's why we find Imam Zain al-Abidin in the path towards Kufa. He tells his auntie, oh my auntie, أنت عالمة غير معلمة فهمة غير مفهمة. You are knowledgeable without being formally taught knowledge. Then where did this knowledge come from? What did we say in the story of Musa and Khidr? وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِن لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. Self-attained, and then there's knowledge that Allah can inspire you, gift you, teach you, known as ilm ladunni. That Sayyida Zainab was alima ghayr mu'allama. Knowledge aspect of Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam. First level. We're going to move on, and there's some lenses that we're going to look at Sayyida Zainab that you're going to think to yourself, I've never heard that in my life. Second, we know that she was mustajab al-da'wah, where between Karbala towards Sham, there was a particular palace that was there and had a queen that was inside it. That queen, as the caravan of the Sabaya were moving, she takes, her name was Hajjam, she takes a rock and throws it on the head of Abu Abdullah. When she does that, Sayyida Zainab raises her hands to complain about that lady. Before her hands are put down, Sayyida Zainab, you'll find that castle, the tradition says, was ignited from a fire from within. By the time the caravan passed, that whole castle was alight and made to rubble. Number 2, mustajab al-da'wah. Number 1 was knowledge. What other characteristics did Sayyida Zainab have? This is one I want you to pay attention to. Sheikh Ma'maqani, remember the name, suggests this. He says, for a person that has read the biography of Sayyida Zainab, that has understood what has occurred within Karbala, understood the sickness of Imam Zain al-Abidin, understood the mission and its sensitivity, and the need for Sayyida Zainab to be the person in the forefront of defending the religion. He goes, it's unjust not to think that the Imam al-Hussein, gave Sayyida Zainab a portion of the weight of Imamat. Let that sink in. He says, I have no doubt that at the time of the sickness of Imam al-Sajjad, that Imam al-Hussein gave Sayyida Zainab a portion of the weight of Imamat. If ever a time you thought Sayyida Zainab was a great lady, this should really make you think how great she actually was. the assistance in Imamat. Had it not been for Sayyidah Zainab and her stance, protecting the Imam of her time, they would have struck Sajjad. But she puts her body on the line. She said, you want to strike him, you strike me first. And she teaches everyone what occurred in Karbala. So the weight of Imam, another level. Worship. Many of us will think we attain a high level, we don't need to worship as much. Sayyidah Zainab teaches us that such a high level she attained, still she never left her worship. How do we know this? That even with
USB, right? Yeah.
that is for me, that showcases the power, the position, and the sacrifice of Sayyida Zainab. Because we know on the plains of Karbala, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, at every moment, whenever a person would fall, whenever he would sacrifice someone for Allah, Abu Abdullah says towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, take until you are pleased." Abdullah al-Radhiya, he would take the blood that was gushing, throw it. خُذْ حَتَّى تَرْضَى. Take it until you are pleased, O Allah. But I ask you, do you know who came towards Abu Abdullah and offered him as a sacrifice? I want you to imagine the heart of a sister, that every morning you wake up looking at the bright face of Abu Abdullah, and every night before you sleep you look at the face of Abu Abdullah, that you go down on the night of the 10th between the bodies that you don't know who they belong to, beheaded, limbs chopped. You would walk past your sons, walk past your nephews, walk past your Abbas, and arrive at a body that you don't recognize because it's been trampled on by the hooves. In that darkness of the night, you would try to gather what was left from the body of Abu Abdullah. Put your hand under it and raise it and say to Allah, "Oh Allah, accept this sacrifice from us." Look at the position of Sayyida Zainab and what she needed to do in Karbala. That the mission was based, its survival, on this great lady. Another of the characteristics of this great lady that we end is that she was a mother above all else. The heart of a mother, Imam Sajjad says, he says a mother carried her children in a place where no one carries anyone. That she feeds her child from the fruit of her heart, that which no one feeds anyone. That this mother would be happy to stay in the sun as long as her children are in the shade. This mother would be happy to be cold as long as her children are warm. She would be happy that she would be starving until her children have eaten, to go thirsty and be happy that her children's thirst is quenched. Such is the love of a mother, that she's happy to be in pain as long as she does not see the pain on her children. How painful was it, oh brothers, oh sisters, that Sayyida Zainab would come into the tents and gaze upon Aun and Muhammad. Those children that she brings up, that she tells them, "Oh Aun, oh Muhammad, my happiness is seeing you sacrifice yourself towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That's my happiness, that everyone has sacrificed themselves. I want to also be in a state of mourning for my children. I found the mothers in Karbala are mourning their children, that Fatima al-Zahra will mourn her child by the end of the night. I want to be there to sacrifice you before anything." So you'd find Sayyida Zainab would bring forward Aun and Muhammad towards Abu Abdullah. Imagine being an uncle towards these young beauties, moons of Bani Hashim, that they come towards you. The traditions say that the clothes would not even fit on these two youngsters, that they had to tie a turban on their heads in order for the helmet to fit on these youngsters. And you'll find Abu Abdullah al-Hussein would look at these two young boys going out towards the battlefield. And you know what's interesting enough, that Aun and Muhammad, you know who trained them? Their uncle Abbas would be the one that trained them. So you'll find Muhammad would go towards the battlefield and he'd look back towards his mother, he'd look back towards Sayyid al-Shuhada, he'd look back towards the person that trained him, his uncle Abbas. As he's striking the enemy, he would begin to kill a few horse riders. He'd begin to kill a few men. As soon as he would strike someone, he'd look towards Abu Fadl al-Abbas as if to say, oh my uncle Abbas, are you proud of the way that I'm striking the enemy? Are you proud of the way that I'm defending Abu Abdullah? Are you proud of the way that I'm using that which you have taught me? He'd strike another and he'd look at Abu Fadl al-Abbas, strike another, look towards Abu Fadl al-Abbas, and then a person would come. Umar ibn Sa'ad would say, these are the sons and the grandsons of a great warrior. These are the sons of Ja'far al-Tayyar. Their uncle is Ali ibn Abi Talib. Make sure that you hurt the heart of their uncle Imam al-Hussein by striking them. Don't face them one-on-one. Surround them from all sides. They would surround Awn and Muhammad. They would split the boys. All of a sudden, they separated, and you'll begin to see the people striking Awn. When they would strike Awn, Awn would fall. Who would see this? His brother. Imagine seeing your brother fall from a strike. As he's falling, he looks towards Abu Abdullah. The tradition says all of the companions, most of them would look towards Abu Abdullah as they're falling, and they would scream out, Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Muhammad, Awn would do the same. Muhammad would see this. They would say, as soon as Awn would fall, Muhammad comes to him. As it comes towards him, you'll find two people at the same time would strike Muhammad on the head. He did not even have a chance to look towards Abu Abdullah. From that strike on his head, he went straight and died. You'll find at that very moment, Imam al-Hussein and Abu Fadl al-Abbas would rush toward the aid of the two youngsters. They would carry them towards the tent. When they would carry them, you can imagine placing them in the tent. All of a sudden, their mother Zainab would come. When Zainab would come, you'll find that Sayyidah Zainab doesn't shed a tear, lest Imam al-Hussein is hurt by him seeing Sayyidah Zainab in such a moment. You'll find Sayyidah Zainab, she would put one hand on the chest of Awn, the other hand on the chest of Muhammad, and she would go into prostration. She would not shed a tear for them in Karbala, lest it would hurt Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah. Do you know when she shed a tear? When she returned back towards Medina, the calamities that befell Sayyidah Zainab, that her husband was there speaking to Imam al-Sajjad. When Sayyidah Zainab would come towards Imam al-Sajjad, Sayyidah Zainab's husband was there. Imam al-Sajjad, you'll find the conversation would be that Sayyidah Zainab's husband would tell Imam al-Sajjad, who is this outsider that's coming towards us? That he would not recognize Sayyidah Zainab from how much Karbala changed her. Sayyidah Zainab would go towards the house. She would go towards the rooms of Awn and Muhammad. The traditions would say when she'd enter the rooms, you can imagine that their beds were empty. The beds where Awn and Muhammad used to lie. The beds in the home in which she would enter. She would hear their voices, smell them, see them with her eyes. All of a sudden, the house is empty from Awn and Muhammad. The tradition would say that's when Sayyidah Zainab would cry for Awn and Muhammad. Inshallah, we can keep our hearts in Karbala and all stand up, inshallah, for the honor of the taboot that's going to come around us.
शहने सदा दी बहन मर गए जाए तेरे बिनते शहेबुल हसन मर गए जाए ہائے وہ خورشید و ماہ توڑ کے دم کر کے دے گئے رنجو مہن مر گئے جائے تیرے مانگ کے پانی کا جام ہو گئے دونوں تمام ہائے وہ تشنا دہن مر گئے جائے تیرے بات تلک بھی نہ کی خلد کی بس راحلی کم سخنوں بے وطن مر گئے جائے تیرے خنجر و تلوار سے تیروں کی بوچھار سے ہوتے ہی زخمی بدن مر گئے جائے تیرے ہائے وہ خورشید و ماہ توڑ کے دم کر کے دے گئے رنجو مہن مر گئے جائے تیرے شہنے صدا دی بہن مر گئے جائے تیرے زینب نے رو کر کہا او نو محمد میرے زینب نے رو کر کہا او نو محمد میرے مر گئے خون میں نہا او نو محمد میرے زینب نے او نو محمد میرے زینب نے رو کر کہا او نو محمد میرے مر گئے خون میں نہا مت میرے ماموں پہ صدقے ہوئے تیگوں سے زخمی ہوئے ماموں پہ صدقے ہوئے تیگوں سے زخمی ہوئے خون میں تڑپتے ہوئے او نو محمد میرے زینب نے رو کر کہا مت میرے زینب نے رو کر کہا او نو محمد میرے مر گئے خون میں نہا ہائے اجل آ گئی موت تمہیں بھا گئی ہائے اجل آ گئی موت تمہیں بھا گئی کس کی نظر کھا گئی او نو محمد میرے زینب نے رو کر کہا او نو محمد میرے زینب نے رو او نو محمد میرے مر گئے خون مد میں اے جان زہرا مظلوم حسین اینا اینا این الحسین اے جان زہرا مظلوم حسین اینا اینا این الحسین مظلوم حسین اے لال میرا پتہ ہو کہاں جنت سے آئی ہوں سن لو فگا زہرا تھی کربل میں نوحہ کنا شدت سے کرتی تھی غم کو بیاں ماں کو دکھا دو تو چہرہ حسین اے جان زہرا مظلوم حسین اینا اینا این الحسین حسین سوچا نہ تھا ایسا ہوگا کبھی بے مکنا رہ جائے زینب میری کس جرم کی یہ سزا مل گئی قیدی بنی آج بنت علی دشمن نہ سمجھے گا رتبہ حسین اے جان زہرا مظلوم حسین اینا اینا اے جان زہرا حسین قاسم نہیں میرا اکبر نہیں اونو محمد وہ اصغر نہیں لاشیں ہے بکھری مگر سر نہیں سر پر سکینہ کے چادر نہیں ہاں لٹ گیا تیرا کنبہ حسین اے جان زہرا مظلوم حسین اینا اینا مظلوم حسین کربل میں ہائے کربل میں ہے ماں کے نالے حسین آگوش احمد کے پالے حسین رب کی رضا پانے والے حسین ہے مطمئن آس والے حسین کتنا یہ محکم ہے رشتہ حسین اے جان زہرا مظلوم حسین اینا اینا این الحسین اے جان زہرا
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین جا بزادار یا حسین یا حسین میرے غازی کہاں ہو میرے غازی کہاں ہو تیری جاگیر سے چل پڑا قافلہ میرے غازی کہاں ہو اے میرے با وفا اے بہن میری دا میرے غازی کہاں ہو تیری جاگیر سے چل پڑا قافلہ میرے غازی کہاں تجھ کو دیکھے بنا چین آتا نہیں نوک نیزہ پہ سر تیرا ملتا نہیں میں زیارت کروں کس طرح یہ بتا میرے غازی کہاں ہو تیری جاگیر سے چل پڑا قافلہ میرے غازی کہاں ہو لاج رکھ لو بہن کی برادر میرے خاک مقتل میرے سر کا پردہ بنے حکم دے دو ذرا منتظر ہے ہوا میرے غازی کہاں ہو تیری جاگیر سے چل پڑا قافلہ میرے غازی کہاں ہو تیری بازو مجھے راستے میں ملے میں نے چادر سمجھ کر وہ سر پر رکھے بازوؤں سے تیرا پوچھتی خوب پتا میرے غازی کہاں ہو تیری جاگیر سے چل پڑا قافلہ میرے غازی کہاں ہو اے میرے با وفا ہے بہن بیریدہ میرے غازی کہاں ہو میرے غازی کہاں ہو سورۃ المبارکۃ الفاتحہ
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وسيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا وعلى أختك فاطمة المعصومة السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي الجواد السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي النقي السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي الزكي العسكري السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن وكعبة الإيمان إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته